Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure meeting you. It's a pleasure working with IDG staff and clients. We just started collaborating with IDG end of June, and we've received a lot of calls. Like in a couple of weeks, we had like 30 clients who were able to either help or refer to somewhere else where they can help. So it's a pleasure working with you. We also have Charles here, who's the one of our attorneys. I'm going to just cover the services that we do at ANSOB. So we provide free immigration legal services, including applying for citizenship. And this is for all states. Green card applications for refugees and asylees, and that's for New York City residents. Renewal of your green card if it expires, DACA renewal, work permit applications, or removal of conditions. Also, we help apply for travel documents for refugees and asylees. We do also have free citizenship classes and free ESL classes, as well as free job orientation classes. For right now, the classes are administered through Zoom, so they're all online. And the classes for ESL are for New York City residents. For citizenship classes and citizenship application, it can be anybody in any state. It's a federal funding. We are accredited and funded by USCIS as well as the city, DYCD and HRA. I'm a BIA accredited representative, and we have two lawyers in our staff, Charles and Lisa. So Charles, it's very nice of him that he's able to accommodate the schedule and join us today. Thank you all for your time. I'll give the mic to Charles.
All right. Thank you, Iman. Thank you, everyone. Hello, my name is Charles. I'm an attorney with Lutheran Social Services of New York and with the ANSOB Center. So like I said, thank you for having me here. As Iman said, I'm going to speak a little bit about citizenship, US citizenship, about naturalization, which is the process of applying for and becoming a citizen. So we'll talk a little bit first about the benefits, about the requirements, and then a bit more about the process itself. And then, as Iman said, I'll go over some of the questions that we got by email. Okay, so there are many benefits to becoming a US citizen. US citizens are generally then eligible to vote, to serve on a jury, to apply for a US passport and travel with that passport. US citizens don't have to worry about traveling for too long outside of the country or for getting into trouble that could lead to immigration court, because once you're a citizen, you no longer have to worry about those things. So there are many benefits to becoming a US citizen if you are considering it. Just before we talk about becoming a citizen, some people already are citizens and may not know it. So you may be a citizen, of course, if you were born in the United States or a territory of the United States. You may be a US citizen if one or both of your parents were US citizens when you were born. And then the other situation where someone may be a US citizen is when they are a child under 18 years of age, living in the physical and legal custody of a parent who is a US citizen. Okay, so this one's a little bit complicated. But basically, if a child has a green card and they're living with a parent who becomes a citizen or was a citizen while that child was living with them with the green card, that child becomes a citizen automatically. Okay, so if any of these situations apply to you, if one of your parents is a citizen or any of these other situations, you should seek a consult about possibly already being a citizen. And then rather than applying for citizenship itself, you just apply for a certificate to verify your citizenship. Okay, and that's the form N600, which is different from the citizenship form itself. Okay, so if you're not already a US citizen, you may be considering naturalization. Naturalization, again, is the process of applying for and becoming a US citizen. So these are the general requirements of US citizenship. You must be at least 18 years old. You have to be a lawful permanent resident, which is a green card holder. Okay, so someone who has a green card is a lawful permanent resident of the United States. So you have to have a green card for at least 5 years. We'll talk in a second about an exception to that. You have to demonstrate good moral character, and we'll talk more about what that is. You have to be able to read, write, and speak basic English and pass the citizenship exam. Okay, a reminder that generally applications for citizenship can be submitted 3 months before, 90 days before someone meets that 5-year requirement. So if you're ready to become a citizen and you're going to meet that 5 years soon, feel free to contact us through the referral system for the ANSOB Center, and we can talk to you about that at least 90 days before you meet that 5 years. Okay. So the other way that you may be eligible for citizenship, okay, so the first one was 5 years with a green card. The second one is you're married to a US citizen and you got your green card through that marriage to that US citizen, and you've been married and living with that person for 3 years with your green card. Okay, so if you're married to a US citizen and you got your green card that way, you get to apply for citizenship 2 years before people that have green cards through other means. Okay, so you get to jump the line by 2 years. Just keep in mind that you have to be still married to and living with that person that you got your green card through while you go through the naturalization process itself. Okay. And then otherwise, the requirements are the same. You still have to be 18 years old. You still have to demonstrate good moral character, be able to read, write, and speak basic English, and to pass the citizenship exam itself. Okay. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what is good moral character, okay? So one of the requirements for naturalization is to show that the applicant, that you are a good person. You have to show that you are and continue to be a good person up until you take the oath to become a citizen, okay? So that means that even things that happen in between your application itself or in between the interview, anything up until the oath ceremony can be considered to deny you that citizenship, okay? So sometimes people get into trouble after they've applied or after they've had their interview and they think, oh, well, this is gonna be fine. But that can still cause a lot of troubles. So if you're considering citizenship, I recommend you do it as soon as you're eligible. Okay, so what is good moral character, okay? Generally, the US government looks at the last 5 years, or if you're applying with marriage, the last 3 years. And that's where the most focus is. But the government can look at your whole life, basically. They focus on certain things, especially crimes, okay? Some permanent bars to good moral character, some things that mean that you could never become a citizen, are if you're convicted of an aggregated felony, or if you participate in very serious crimes like persecution, genocide, or torture. And those are examples of severe things that would prevent someone from becoming a citizen. Now, there are also conditional bars, and a conditional bar means that instead of it being permanent, it's conditional, so it can be proven that you're no longer don't have good moral character because of this reason. So some things that could be a bar to good moral character are criminal convictions, okay? So any interaction with law enforcement is something that immigration will want to look at to see if they think that you have good moral character. DUIs can be conditional bars to good moral character. Failure to support dependents. So if you have children that you need to pay child support on, that's something that they consider for good moral character. Or if you ever give false testimony, including in your citizenship application itself. So it's really important to be honest with immigration. And if there's something you're worried about, it's important to speak to an attorney, because a lot of times what we see is that the thing in the past doesn't prevent someone from becoming a citizen, but failure to be honest about it now prevents them from becoming a citizen. So providing any false testimony can prevent you from becoming a citizen itself, okay? So those are some conditional bars. So remember, we want to focus on activity and interactions with law enforcement when we think about good moral character. So any arrest records in the past or court dispositions are things that you would want to talk to an attorney with before you apply for citizenship. And just a little reminder here that immigration law is federal. So, Iman made the point earlier about citizenship, and we do it for anybody in any state, right? So this is all federal law. It doesn't matter what state you're in, it applies no matter what, okay? And a reminder that certain things, for example, marijuana remains illegal federally. So even if you're living in a state like California or soon to be New York, where something is legal in the state but still illegal federally, you need to be careful before you become a US citizen, okay? So just keep in mind all these things. If any of these apply to you, I recommend that you speak to an attorney. You can come to us at the ANSOB Center before you apply for citizenship, okay? And if you have any of these worries, what the government is doing is a balancing test, okay? So if you have any worries like criminal convictions, then what we talk to your clients about is showing that you are a good person, okay? And that can be shown in a lot of different ways. People have ties to community, people support their children, maybe they're members of the PTA at school or a local community group or a church. They volunteer at a nonprofit, they help out, at the picnic, setting up the halal food, something like that, that they can show, look, I'm involved in my community here in the US and I am a good person, okay? So that's good moral character, and that's a big part of the citizenship process itself is showing your good moral character if there's any issues with that. All right. So now we'll talk for a little bit about the English and civics requirement, which I think is something that people tend to be most worried about, especially if they didn't speak English as a first language, which is understandable. During your interview to become a citizen, the officer will ask you questions about your application and your background. They're going to go over the whole application with you in English, okay? And that's going to be your main English speaking test itself, is whether or not you can understand the application materials. And then at the end of the application review, they'll ask you to read a bit, to write a bit. A reminder that ANSOB does offer citizenship classes. So if you're worried about any of this, you can contact us. And then the other part of the test is the civics part. And that's about American government and American history. Okay, there are 100 questions that could be asked. They don't ask all 100, okay? But there are 100 that they can choose from. So it's something that you can study for and be ready for when you go in for that interview. Okay, just one last thing. Generally, applicants have 2 chances to take the test. So if you go your first time and you're a bit nervous and you mess up, don't worry, you get another chance. You go a second time before that application would be denied. Okay, all right. So really quick, just some exemptions to the English or civics requirement itself. There are 3 different exemptions that can apply based on the age of a person and the number of years that they've had their green card. So both things, okay? If someone is 50 years or older and they've had their green card for at least 20, then the English requirement is waived, okay? Then the application can be read to them in a language that they understand and speak, okay? They still have to take the history and civics test, but it's in their native language. The same thing if someone is 55 years or older or 15 years with a green card, so 5 years older, 5 years less with the green card, but they can also qualify for the exemption. And then the last one is someone who's 65 years or older and has had their green card for at least 20. And that person also gets a simplified version of the civics and history test. So if someone is older than 65, they've had their green card for a very long time, their English is waived and the civics part is a lot easier for them to pass. Okay, and then the last kind of exemption is a medical disability exemption. This is something that is relatively hard to get. Okay, so if you are considering a medical disability exemption to the English or civics requirement, I certainly recommend you speak to an attorney. But basically, you may be eligible if you can show that you have a physical or developmental disability or a mental impairment that would prevent you from learning English and or civics, okay? So there has to be some sort of diagnosis where a doctor can say that that diagnosis means that the person can no longer learn English, learn history, learn civics, okay? So a doctor will need to fill out a form to certify that, and that form will be reviewed by the government before they decide whether to grant it, okay? And again, these are pretty difficult to get. So if it's at all possible for someone to study and be prepared for the English and civics exam, it's certainly easier if that's at all possible than trying to get this medical exemption. Okay. All right. So now we're just going to talk for a bit about the actual process itself, just so people understand more or less what is going on, what happens when you apply for citizenship. So generally, an applicant will complete a form. It's the form number is the form N400. they complete an application with evidence and either fees or the fee waiver. We'll talk about that in a second. They submit that to the government, okay? The government then sends them a receipt with a receipt number. They'll take their fingerprints, okay? Usually if you have a green card, you know the process, okay? You know that they may send you a receipt, then your fingerprints will be taken. And this is a reminder that they will conduct that criminal check, that background check. So it's hard to hide from immigration. So again, if there's something in your past you're worried about, talk to an attorney, because it's better to be prepared and be honest than to have them, try to surprise you with information that maybe you were trying to hide. Okay. All right. So anyway, after your fingerprints are processed, you'll have an interview in the local office, and the local office will interview you, review the exam, review the application, and conduct the exam with you. Okay. If there's anything else needed, they may issue a request for that additional evidence. But then otherwise, as long as everything goes well, after that is when someone would have an oath ceremony. And that's when you go and swear the oath to become a citizen. Okay. So unfortunately, the time for processing of citizenship has gone way up, especially in the past, 4 years. But the current administration has said that they're committed to reducing the wait time. So hopefully we're going to see those go down a bit. But keep in mind, this can be a long process. So if you're considering it, I do again urge you to consider it as soon as possible, because it may take a little while, unfortunately, to process with the government. Okay, so a note on the government fee and the fee waiver. So generally, the fee for citizenship, for naturalization, is $640 plus the $85 fee that is mandatory for almost everybody. And that's a total then of $725. Okay, so that's the total government fee for citizenship. The other way to not pay the fee or to submit this application without a fee is by using a fee waiver. Okay, and there's a form that the government provides to request a fee waiver. The easiest and most straightforward way to have a fee waiver granted is if you receive a means tested benefit. So that's a government benefit where your income is tested in order for you to receive it. So if you receive food stamps, if you receive Medicaid, or in New York, if you receive the essential plan, you may qualify for a fee waiver with your means tested benefit. And it's the easiest way, again, to have the federal government say, okay, the state has already seen that you are qualified for assistance, we'll waive the fee for citizenship. Okay. The other way is if your household income is below 150% of the federal poverty guidelines. So for that, you have to figure out your household size, similar to on your taxes, and you have to figure out the poverty guidelines to see if you make below 150% of the federal poverty guidelines. And then the last one is a financial hardship. These are generally harder to have the government approve, but what you would need to do is demonstrate to the government that you have some sudden financial hardship that prevents you from being able to pay the fee. Now, usually people that have a financial hardship qualify for a means tested benefit. So usually they can get the fee waiver for the reason up top there that's the easiest. But again, those are the ways that you can request a fee waiver. Okay. So, and thank you again, everyone, for listening and for being here. Perfect.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, Charles, and thank you, Iman. But please stick around as we have the next guest coming up, and just monitor some of the question. We're monitoring the questions on the chat. We will direct them to you as well.